For decades, if you wanted to go to space in India, there was really only one name in town, the National Space Agency, ISRO. But what happens when you throw open the flight deck to hundreds of private companies? Well, you get a commercial space boom that analysts think could be worth a whopping $17 billion. Today, we're explaining how India is completely rewriting the rules of the space race. So, here's our flight plan. First, we're going to look at how the industry went from basically a one-man show to a full-blown ecosystem. Then, we'll get into the specific rule changes that really lit the fuse. After that, we'll see how India's unique approach stacks up against the US and China, check out the first real deals taking off, and finally, look at that massive $17 billion prize at the end of this journey.
All right, let's jump right in. To really get how huge this change is, we need to rewind a little bit and see how things used to be, in a system that was completely built around just one central player.
This right here perfectly captures the before and after. You know, in the old days, private companies were basically just suppliers. ISRO was the architect with the big vision, and these companies just providing the nuts and bolts. But now, the game has totally changed. Those same companies can be the architects themselves, designing their own missions, owning their own satellites, and selling their own services. It's the difference between being a contractor and being the creator.
And this quote really drives that point home. For so long, ISRO was the designer, the builder, the launcher, and the operator. It did everything. It was a completely closed system where ISRO played every single position on the field, and the private sector was just watching from the sidelines.
So, how did the doors swing open like this? Well, it wasn't a slow, gradual thing. It was a very deliberate, two-part strategy from the government, and it was designed to completely reshape the entire landscape.
Okay, the first big move was creating something called INSPACs. The easiest way to think about it is as the new mission control, but for the private sector. It's an independent body, and its whole job is to give private companies the official green light to design, build, and launch their own stuff.
The second piece of that puzzle was NSIL. This is the commercial arm, and it acts like a bridge. It's what allows private companies to finally tap into ISRO's decades of incredible technology, its launch pads, and its infrastructure, but on clear commercial terms.
So what you get when you put those two together is the real game changer. By creating these new institutions, the government fixed a massive conflict of interest. ISRO, which, still runs its own important national missions, is no longer in charge of regulating its potential competitors. The referee is no longer also a player. Suddenly you've got a fair playing field for everybody.
So what does this actually mean for a company on the ground? Well, this new setup gives them a completely new playbook. They can dream up their own missions from scratch, use their satellites as assets to raise money, sell directly to clients anywhere in the world, and grow based on market demand, not just on the government schedule.
So, how does India's new model fit into the global picture? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because they aren't just copying the playbook from the US or China. They're actually carving out a unique space for themselves.
You can see the difference so clearly here. On one hand, you have the US model. Yeah, it's open to everyone, but it's incredibly expensive. On the other hand, you've got China's model, which is controlled by the state from top to bottom. India is aiming for this really smart, uncommon middle ground. It's taking the open access idea from the US and mixing it with its own killer competitive cost advantage. And this is absolutely key. India is not a rookie in the space world. It's layering all this new commercial freedom on top of decades of proven, reliable technology. And when you add its geopolitical neutrality into that mix, you get a really powerful combination. For a lot of countries, India becomes the perfect partner. You get advanced tech without the political baggage that might come with other major powers.
Okay, a great model on paper is one thing, but is it actually, working in the real world? Well, the early signs are a definite yes. We're already seeing international deals getting signed. And we're not talking about small pilot projects either. Private Indian companies are already signing real, significant deals with international agencies, with some of these first contracts falling in the $5 to $25 million range. That's some serious validation right out of the gate.
And look at where the demand is coming from. It's from all over the world, from Australia to Poland. This kind of global interest is a crystal clear sign that India's private space sector is being taken seriously as a credible and competitive new force on the world stage.
Now, you might look at a $10 million contract and think, space is expensive. But that's kind of missing the point. These deals are strategically vital. They're the foot in the door, they build trust, they prove that you can deliver, and they're the crucial first step into much larger, more valuable long-term programs with these global partners.
So where is this all going? What's the ultimate potential of this newly opened up sector? Well, this is where the numbers start to get really, really exciting.
Analysts see the growth coming from 5 key areas. Think of it like a ladder. It starts with building satellite constellations for defense and surveillance. Then, you use similar tech to provide Earth observation data for things like agriculture or climate monitoring. As space gets more crowded, you need space traffic control services. All of this requires a serious high-tech manufacturing base. And finally, you package all of this up and export it to the world.
And when you add all of that together, you get this incredible projection. Analysts are estimating that within just 8 years, India's private space economy could be a $17 billion industry. That's a huge number.
So what this all boils down to is this. We're at a true inflection point. The policy is in place, the domestic capability is proven, and the global demand is clearly there. It's a rare alignment that creates a very real and very exciting launch window. The only question left is, who's going to be bold enough to seize it?